would have gotten like the best, like the highest marks by like 0.02%, told my kids that, well, aren't farmers uneducated? Like they're uneducated. They're in the uneducated part of society. It's just like, what? It's unreal.
Yeah, Chuck was just saying that I think it was the similar story with the girl saying, well, yeah, you don't need to know much about farmers.
Yeah. Yeah, like there's nothing, they're just
Nothing
out
to
there in
learn.
a tractor.
It's really simple to be
Yeah.
farmers. Like,
Yeah.
what?
Yeah.
They're like a scientist.
Yeah.
They're an inventor. They're a fabricator. They're a veterinarian.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
they're a weather person. Like,
Yeah. If you're not in the community, it can be really misunderstanding
yeah,
or misunderstood. But
yeah. So I think this is going to be part kind of what this
yeah.
is. So
Good.
yeah, we need
Perfect.
that.
Okay, so we're talking like mostly about compost today, or
No, it'll be
everything?
anything related to just building the soil health.
Okay,
So
perfect.
yeah, so maybe we'll start out with just name the name of your farm and
Yeah.
a little bit of history of what's been going on here.
Yeah, so my name is Amy Ewert, and I farm with my husband Chuck and his parents Ed and Myrna. And our farm name is All in Acres Limited, and it's evolved over the years from a semi-conventional farm. I say semi-conventional because in the 80s, like Chuck's dad would have been one of the first people around here, I think, to do zero till. So kind of on the leading edge of that. And then when we moved out here in 2009, we quit our government jobs in Regina. I was a computer programmer, and Chuck worked for Water Resources Engineering Technology. And we moved out here to kind of take over or help with the farm. Ed was ready to retire if we weren't interested, but we were kind of tired of city life, so we decided to make the move. And then when we came out here, I was pregnant, and our girls were born, and they had some health issues when they were born. They're twins, so they had colic for the first 6 months, and that just kind of kept going, and they had chronic ear infections and tummy trouble, and were really struggling. But we just kept doing the Western medicine thing, and that was antibiotics. And we weren't educated and didn't know better, so we pretty much destroyed their guts, really. Their gut flora was completely gone, like imbalanced and not healthy. And then that's kind of where our regenerative journey started, was with their health. So that led to soil health, and yeah.
Right. Yeah, that's I've been seeing that seems to be a pattern out there where there's children or someone in the family that has health issues, and then looking at the outside perspectives of what's going on there. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Okay. So, do you have a farming background then? Did you grow up on a farm or?
No, I personally didn't grow up on a farm. I grew up in a little bush community up north in Saskatchewan, at Chittick Lake. And I think like my grandparents had a farm, but it was very, there was lots of tillage. And I was the youngest or one of the youngest grandchildren. So by the time I was on the farm, there wasn't a lot of farming happening anymore, I guess. But I was exposed to the farming culture and life, not in a regenerative way, but my grandparents never would have used chemicals though. Like they would have been chemical free. But yeah, I think just living in the city and realizing that I didn't want to stare at a computer for the rest of my life, and I wanted to be involved in something more meaningful. Like, not that computer programming isn't meaningful, but yeah.
A different side of the scope.
It's very different. Yeah. Sometimes you have to go to school to realize what you don't want to do. So yeah.
Well, I was gonna be curious because seeing in Alberta, there's only a few farmers that I've chatted to where it was actually they grew up on the farm and they continued with the farming. There is this pattern of leaving to try something else out in the world and then coming back again to help out. So So okay, that's cool. Because I'm guessing Chuck then grew up with his parents.
Yeah, so Chuck grew up on the farm just 2 miles south of here. Okay. And his great grandfather homesteaded on this quarter and built the barn in 26. So
cool.
yeah. Okay. So we're kind of back on the family land.
Awesome, and it's going well. You're enjoying it.
It's going well. I mean, like we've been out here since actively farming since, well, we were out here in '07, I suppose, but we didn't form. Chuck was working at the mine the first few years as a surveyor just to start. Yeah, just to get going, and then we just went all in 2009, 2010. So, yeah, there were lots of learning curves, and like regenerative agriculture is not straightforward. There isn't a guidebook to it. We feel like a lot of the practices we're trying on a broad acre scale are not easily documented, or you just have to talk to your fellow regenerative friends to see what they're doing and try to figure out your own path and what works for you on your farm. And so that's been tricky. Like, it's gone well, but there have been lots of years of learning and lots of failures and lots of blood, sweat, and tears to figure out what works for us on our farm and in our soil, and what equipment works here that might not work somewhere else, or work somewhere else that doesn't work here. Those are harder lessons. But yeah, we just keep going because we're passionate about it and we believe in it. And
cool. So you had mentioned that you had reached out to some other people in the community. I find farming is definitely a try something, observe, and then tweak. Did you mainly find that just from finding these mentors and other, or was there like the University of YouTube kind of thing, or any podcasts or books or anything like that jumped out at you?
Yeah, the things that have helped us on our journey, I would say the turning point for us that really got us serious about regenerative agriculture was in 2017. We took Graham Sate's course, the NTS. That was a 4-day course. I'm pretty sure that's a whole university degree packed into 4 days. So it was really intense. It was overwhelming, but really inspirational. And I think it made us realize that other people are doing this, and we wanted to be part of that group of people in North America that kind of were pioneering the ideas and trying them and inspiring others. So there have been also like John Kemp podcast. Like, my husband, every time we get into a tractor or a truck, he has a different podcast on, and my kids are like, "Oh, Dad, like, can we listen to some music?" Or so we have to buy him some headphones so he can listen to his own thing. But I mean, I'm just as curious as he is, and our kids are also on board with all of that. So, no, it's really good. Yeah.
I think more people need to grow beards like John there.
So. Yeah, it's pretty impressive beard. Yeah, and lots of, like, we did we went down and saw Gabe Brown in the States there. I don't remember when that was. Yeah, we did. Yeah, we saw. Oh, cool. Yeah, met Gabe Brown and his son and saw what they were doing, which was inspirational too. Like, they obviously run cattle and do, rotational planned grazing, which we don't have on our farm. So that's a challenge that we face. We don't use animals, and we're trying to build soil without animals. So it's a little bit of a different story, but yeah, he did give us definitely some inspiration. So it's a worthwhile trip. And we met some friends along the way. So that was really nice to make some connections there. Like, sometimes you feel like you're maybe on your own in a community that is mostly conventional. So the other day, actually, I just saw my neighbor planted a cover crop, like somebody I wouldn't have expected to. And I was like, yes, yes, this is awesome. And he was talking about carbon with me, and I was super excited. So I think it's slowly getting out into other farms more. But yeah, you do kind of feel like you're the farm people wonder what the heck you're doing when they drive by, and now what's going on, and why are there so many weeds. And so it's really nice to make those connections with other people around the province and with social media, it's easy to keep in touch now. So that's really,
totally.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's the biggest distinction that we have to make is, like, farmers are farmers are farmers. They're all growing food or growing something within that industry or that market, but no farmer's going out and trying to be malicious on purpose or anything like that, right? Yeah. Like there's just certain tools that they've learned or certain practices that they've learned, but understanding that life is change and we need to always tweak and change as we go and learn more tools and learn different ways of doing things, right? And so I applaud you for taking those steps and making those changes, because it is hard, like to be the first ones in a community to do something. Like you're kind of ostracized in the black sheep style side of things, right? So,
yeah, our community has been really, really quiet if they disagree with our practices, which we really appreciate. But we do have a landlord who is really amazing, and like he encourages all of our regenerative efforts. He lets us make our compost, which is a little bit has a smell at first in his shop. He is excited when he finds out it's doing good things in the soil, and he really promotes our efforts on his land, which is he's probably the first landlord that's been like that accepting. So that's really encouraging. And,
yeah. Sweet. Well, you said it there, so let's maybe segue there with getting into some of the nitty gritty stuff. You said compost, that you're making compost. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, for sure. So we started making compost last year, so in 2022, and we went with the Johnson Sioux method. So that, I think in our area, we haven't found anybody else doing the Johnson Sioux on a broad acre level. So we had definitely some learning to do and some inventions to make, and it's been a lot of fun, but I think we've seen good results already, so we're pretty excited about it.
Awesome. Yeah. That's great. So you're making like extracts and stuff out of it then, or?
Yeah, so with the Johnson Sioux, you have to, of course, it's a year wait time until it's ripe or ready to use, and we just extracted it with water at seeding time, and liquid injected it into the furrow behind the seed.
Awesome.
So we did that on 100% of our acres. We were supposed to do check strips on every quarter, so shut the liquid off for the first 2 west passes, but it just didn't happen. So it looks like it was effective and worked really well. And we didn't do any seed treatment this year. We usually seed treat with Eco Tea. And we just use our own extract from the Johnson Sioux compost to treat 100% of our seeds, except canola. We didn't treat the canola, but it comes treated. So, and yeah, that would just be a kind of a mess. But yeah, we treated everything else, and then we did put the Johnson Sioux in furrow with the canola anyway. It's not a fungal plant really. It likes the bacterial soil, but we thought, why not try it? And yeah.
How did the results look so far?
Like
a bit early to tell, or?
The results are good. Our rain situation this year wasn't amazing, so biology does best with moisture. Oh, was there? Oh my gosh. Perfect. Yeah, I think it's hard to tell. Like we've been doing serious regenerative practices for 5 years, but we've had a drought for 5 years. So I think when it rains, we're really going to explode on the biology front. We do see differences, like we do testing. We do some tests that would indicate things are working, but yeah, when we get some moisture, I think we'll really be able to see. Our peas this year, do you want specific examples? Or
sure, yeah.
We grew some marrow fat peas and had, I think, maybe 3 inches of rain on those peas. So really, we weren't expecting a great yield at all. But with the Johnson Sioux compost extract in furrow, I think is the reason we had even maybe better than average yields on that. Yeah, on that half section across the half section. So cool. Yeah, we're attributing it to our efforts because yeah.
Awesome. Okay. Yeah. So you talk about regenerative practices. What other kinds of things are you doing to help benefit the soil or focus on the soil?
Yeah, so we have 3/4 of organic land that we're trying to work towards less or zero till organically, which is difficult because weed control typically is tillage on organic land. Yeah. But we intercrop perennials and biennials in our organic land. We planted flax. We did lentils the other year, so flax lentil intercrop. So we have a little more fun on our organic land that way. Our conventional land, we typically underseed fall rye with our wheat or our cereals. Yeah. So that gives us an opportunity to capture carbon in the fall once we harvest our wheat. And we have a couple of neighbors who have fenced some of our land and will bring their cows in and graze. Unfortunately, we don't do planned or intense rotational grazing with their cattle. We just don't have the manpower, and they're not interested to come out and move their cows once a day. So
at least just yet.
Yeah, right. Maybe we're getting there. And my husband won't let me buy cows, so we're kind of at a standstill there. But yeah, so we do that. Our organic land, we're currently trying to flocculate the soil with a calcium program. One of the number one um, limiting factors to biology is oxygen. So, and we're finding that in our soil definitely out here. So we're trying that on our organic land, and we sprayed like goodies on our soil, like liquid fish, and we use a lot of like kelp and some microbes like boron and that kind of thing.
Now you use the word flocculate. I think it's a great word.
Okay.
But maybe the everyday person might not know what that means. Right. So you'd be dealing with a compaction issue.
Yeah, so flocculation just means a really tight soil where oxygen isn't really accessible. So flocculation is kind of like aeration, or just making the particles in the soil bigger so that they're not so compacted and biology can thrive.
Yeah. Because typically in compacted soils, like, what would you see? How would that be detrimental typically to your?
Well, biology just can't exist in a compacted soil, and it's evident like when you dig and you want that kind of cottage cheesy like texture when you put the shovel in the ground. Lots of airway for your biology, but yeah.
Awesome. Okay. Cool. And then with doing some of the interseeding and that kind of thing, so that's bringing diversity of plant material, and then you're trying to keep a living root within the soil. You're trying to keep the soil covered more often. Do you were saying you had to use a little bit more tillage with the organic side than with the conventional. Do you try to keep a certain amount of trash or residue and stuff on the soil as well, or
like on the organic or
on either side? Or?
Yeah. So we definitely try to manage our trash or what's left behind, the residue. And it's a tricky balance because you have to be able to seed the next year, and you want to protect the soil at the same time. So we're really, it's a struggle. The residue usually is a struggle. We'd always like to see more, but then you have to be able to seed the next year. So yeah, I think if you were working with cover crops, and like we do a little bit of cover cropping, not as much as we would like to, and I think typically that's easier maybe in warmer climates where you don't have the frost in the winter, or if you have animals, or so just being a grain farm and having such a long winter and a short growing season makes cover crops a little difficult. But yeah, you can definitely see the difference where the soil isn't exposed, you have more even temperatures, and the biology does much better there. Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
Okay. Maybe so. I see again. It's always about doing something than observing, and you and Chuck made a big leap into going the direction that you did. Is there any struggles that jump out at you that you had to go through to kind of go that way, or if you could tell yourself something that you know now when you kind of first started the journey? Does that make sense?
Yeah, definitely. I think part of making it work for you is realizing when it doesn't work and having to move on, because mostly the regenerative community is realizes that not everything works for everybody, and the attitude is more accepting in terms of, or maybe just not so rigid. So, like for example, we thought, well, our friends down south by Minton use a disc drill, and disc drills are like low tillage and better for the soil. So we went and bought a disc drill. Well, in our soil, we spent years trying to use that disc drill because we believed in the principle of it, and we really hurt ourselves economically because we had a real struggle to get the seed in the ground. And I think that if we could do that differently and just get out of it sooner, we would have. But yeah, I think you just have to realize when things don't work for you, that's okay. And you're a farmer, so you have to come up with something that does work for you. And that's the amazing thing about farmers, is that they're resilient and innovative, and they dig deep. So you just have to be able to realize when something doesn't work for you, it's okay to move on. Yeah.
Would you be able to just describe the disc drill not working because because of how your soils are compared to what's down in Minton?
I think the disc drill didn't work for us because our soil didn't let it stay in the ground. It would rise up out of the ground. We tried everything to make that drill, and I remember seeding and checking behind the seeder and seeing the canola on top of the ground. Well, you're not going to have a crop if the peas would go in the ground when we were intercropping because we put them in the fertilizer boot. So that was good. We were intercropping peas and canola. Something grew, but yeah, we struggled keeping the seed in the ground with our disc drill. So then we moved to well, my husband likes to change drills like he likes to change underwear. So that's like daily.
Well, there could have been a joke there, like he does it every 2 weeks or something.
I know, I was going to go there, and I'm like, well, our guy's not even here.
He can't defend himself.
So I think in the end, we're happy with the drill we have now because we feel like the opener is narrow enough that it does minimal disturbance to the soil, but it goes in the soil. So I think this next year, because we're buying another drill. The paired row opener we had was too disturbing, so we're changing again.
Well, it's like taking a car for a test drive, right? Like, so
yeah,
you kind of have to do the same thing, I guess, a little bit.
It's a little more expensive, but,
yeah.
Yeah.
Too bad you couldn't just rent it for a trial.
Yeah, it's for a year or two.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, we'll finish up with if you could have everything the way you wanted it, what would this farm look like, or what's that big, hairy, audacious goal that you would like to have?
Yeah, I think our overarching plan, our goal would be to have organic, regenerative land. And that's, obviously easier said than done because organic and weed control is difficult. We don't have cattle, and we would like to continuous crop. So there's a lot of expectations there, but we're hoping that our 3/4 will give us that space where we can try things without it being on a huge scale, and figure something out where we can zero till, but also control weeds. Awesome. And not spray. Yeah. And use compost. Cool. And cover crops. And get some cows. Things. Yes.
All the C's.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Cool. Awesome. That's great. Any final comments or anything that you can think of that you'd want to say, or like, what does a farmer mean to you, or like that word?
Yeah. I think being a farmer means that you have a responsibility to learn enough about what you're doing and how it's impacting the world. So we are responsible and caretakers of the land that we farm, and I think if we listen to, can we get political? I think if we listen to politicians and big companies like Bayer and take the advice that they're handing down and teaching our students who are going to school, and put our faith in them, we're not going to make a difference. I think it's up to us to learn and try and fail and try and fail and try to make the world and the soil a better place.
100%. Cool. Well said.
Hmm.
Love it. Because that's what it is all about.